Elisabeth of Hungary was born into a world defined by royal expectations, diplomacy, and the ever-shifting alliances of medieval Europe. Her birth in 1271 was not just the beginning of her life but the start of a journey that would intertwine with the fates of powerful nations. As the daughter of King Stephen V of Hungary and Elisabeth of Anjou, Elizabeth inherited not only a royal lineage but also the weight of the complex political landscape that Hungary, Bohemia, and their neighboring kingdoms navigated during this time. From an early age, Elizabeth's life was marked by the traditions of royalty. As the daughter of the Hungarian king, she was groomed for a future that would see her become a queen, married off to a powerful ruler to strengthen the position of Hungary and create alliances that would benefit her family. Her early years were filled with lessons on governance, diplomacy, and the delicate art of royal marriage. While her childhood was undoubtedly sheltered, it was also full of instruction on how to wield influence behind the scenes, skills that would become invaluable in her later years. In the grand halls of her family's court, Elizabeth observed her father's dealings with nobles and foreign dignitaries. She learned the intricacies of Hungarian politics, and how diplomacy was as important as military might in maintaining peace and power. Her mother, Elisabeth of Anjou, was another crucial figure in shaping her understanding of power. Elisabeth of Anjou had her own complex legacy, one that combined the best traditions of diplomacy with a sharp understanding of how to manage the often turbulent dynamics within European royal courts. Elizabeth of Hungary absorbed these lessons early, and they would stay with her as she stepped into her own role as a queen. At the age of 18, Elizabeth was married to Wenceslaus II of Bohemia, a strategic move that would prove to be one of the most significant decisions in the history of her family and the Kingdom of Bohemia. The marriage between Elizabeth and Wenceslaus was not driven by romantic love but by the pressing needs of both kingdoms. Hungary and Bohemia, two powerful states in Central Europe, needed to secure their borders and strengthen their influence. A union between these two royal houses was the perfect solution, cementing the bond between the two nations. For Elizabeth, the marriage marked a new chapter in her life. She left the familiar surroundings of Hungary for Bohemia, a land filled with its own traditions, politics, and challenges. The Bohemian court was different from her own, with its complex feudal structure and the constant power struggles between nobility. Yet Elizabeth quickly adapted, using the skills she had learned from her mother and father to carve out a role for herself. As queen, she was more than just a consort to her husband. She became his closest confidant and advisor, a voice of reason in the chaotic world of medieval politics. Her entry into the Bohemian court was not without its challenges. While Wenceslaus was the king, his authority was often undermined by powerful nobles who sought to control the kingdom for their own benefit. Elizabeth, however, was no stranger to court intrigue, and she quickly learned how to navigate the complex relationships between the nobility and the royal family. She knew that the key to maintaining power was not just in political alliances but in securing the loyalty of those around her. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills were put to the test as she worked to ensure the stability of Wenceslaus' rule. In the early years of their marriage, Elizabeth worked tirelessly to build strong relationships with the Bohemian nobility. She used her charm, intelligence, and ability to listen to her husband's advisors to gain the trust of key figures within the court. Over time, Elizabeth's influence grew and she became a trusted advisor to Wenceslaus, helping him navigate the often volatile politics of Bohemia. Despite the challenges, Elizabeth's role in the Bohemian court was solidified as she became not just the queen but a political partner to her husband. Wenceslaus, a ruler known for his ambition and determination, recognized his wife's abilities and relied on her counsel in crucial matters. Elizabeth's influence was not just limited to domestic politics. She also played a key role in shaping Bohemia's relationships with its neighbors. Her marriage to Wenceslaus was seen as an important diplomatic move, and Elizabeth used her position to strengthen Bohemia's ties with Hungary and other European powers. As the years passed, Elizabeth's presence in the Bohemian court became a stabilizing force. While Wenceslaus focused on the expansion of his kingdom and securing his position in Central Europe, Elizabeth worked behind the scenes to ensure that his reign was secure. Her understanding of the political intricacies of European courts, combined with her sharp intellect and natural charisma, made her a powerful figure in her own right. Elizabeth was no longer just a queen in name. She had become an influential player in the Game of Thrones. Yet, despite her growing power and influence, Elisabeth remained a deeply devoted wife and mother. Her loyalty to Wenceslaus never wavered, and her support for his ambitions remained steadfast. She understood that her role as queen was not just about her own political gain but about ensuring the success of her family and securing the future of her children. When she gave birth to their son, Wenceslaus III, in 1291, Elizabeth's role as a mother took on even greater significance. The birth of an heir was a moment of great importance, both personally and politically, and Elizabeth knew that securing her son's future would be key to the survival of the dynasty. In the years that followed, Elizabeth's role continued to evolve. She became not only a queen but a symbol of the strength and unity of the Bohemian kingdom. Her influence reached beyond the court, and her name became synonymous with the power of Bohemia itself. While Wenceslaus II was the public face of the kingdom, it was Elizabeth who helped to steer the ship behind the scenes, ensuring that Bohemia remained a powerful force in Europe. Elizabeth's early life was filled with challenges and opportunities, all of which helped to shape the woman she would become. As a queen, wife, and mother, Elisabeth of Hungary had the foresight and wisdom to understand the delicate balance of power and diplomacy. Her marriage to Wenceslaus II was not just a union of two royal houses. It was the beginning of a partnership that would shape the future of both Bohemia and Hungary. Through her political acumen, Elizabeth would go on to play a pivotal role in the reign of Wenceslaus II, influencing the course of history and leaving a legacy that would last for generations. As Elizabeth settled into her new life in Bohemia, she quickly recognized the political intricacies of her new kingdom. Bohemia was not a unified entity in the way her native Hungary had been. It was a land fraught with division where powerful noble families often held more sway than the monarch himself. The task of securing her husband's rule was not a simple one. Though Wenceslaus II had inherited the throne, his position was precarious, and the Bohemian nobility was a force to be reckoned with. The early years of Wenceslaus II's reign were marked by internal conflict, with many factions vying for power. Elizabeth, ever the keen observer, quickly understood that the path to stability in Bohemia lay in aligning herself with the most influential figures in the court. She worked to secure the loyalty of the kingdom's most powerful lords, not through force or intimidation, but through diplomacy, trust, and careful negotiation. Elizabeth, with her deep understanding of court politics, soon became indispensable to her husband, acting as a mediator between the crown and the nobility. Wenceslaus II, who had ascended to the throne in 1278 following the death of his father, was a king with grand ambitions. His desire to expand Bohemia's borders and increase its power in Europe was no secret. However, his drive for territorial expansion often put him at odds with his own nobles, who were wary of overreach and the erosion of their own privileges. Elizabeth, as both wife and political partner, was instrumental in helping her husband navigate these tumultuous waters. While Wenceslaus sought to extend his influence into Poland and Hungary, it was Elizabeth's calm, measured approach that helped keep the realm together. Her role extended beyond that of a traditional queen consort. She was not just a figurehead, she was actively involved in the decision-making processes of the court. Elizabeth used her position to counsel her husband on matters of statecraft, ensuring that his policies were sound and his ambitions kept in check by practical considerations. Wenceslaus, for his part, was wise enough to listen to his wife, who was often more attuned to the mood of the court and the undercurrents of nobility than he was. One of Elizabeth's most significant contributions was in securing the loyalty of the Bohemian nobility. The early 1290s saw a period of instability, as various factions within the court sought to claim more power. Elizabeth, with her diplomatic prowess, worked tirelessly behind the scenes to secure the support of the nobility for her husband's rule. Through a combination of gifts, promises, and strategic alliances, she managed to win over the key lords who would ultimately secure Wenceslaus's position on the throne. In addition to her role in managing the Bohemian court, Elizabeth became a central figure in the political maneuvering that took place within the royal family. The relationship between Wenceslaus II and his brothers, who had their own aspirations for power, was often strained. Elizabeth, ever the peacemaker, worked to mediate between the brothers, ensuring that Wenceslaus's authority was not undermined. She used her position to maintain peace and stability within the royal family, knowing that a fractured family could quickly spell disaster for the kingdom. Elisabeth's role extended beyond Bohemia's borders. Her marriage to Wenceslaus had also been a strategic move designed to strengthen ties between Bohemia and Hungary. The alliance between the two nations had the potential to shift the balance of power in Central Europe. Elisabeth's Hungarian roots made her an ideal bridge between the two kingdoms, and she was quick to capitalize on this. She facilitated communication between the courts of Bohemia and Hungary, ensuring that both sides honored the terms of their agreement and that mutual interests were upheld. The political landscape in Europe during this period was volatile. Kings and queens alike jostled for position, and alliances shifted with the wind. Elisabeth's ability to maintain Bohemia's standing in this turbulent environment was a testament to her political skill and acumen. She understood that in order for her husband to achieve his grand vision of a greater Bohemia, she would have to support him in every way possible, both publicly and privately. As Elisabeth continued to build her influence within the Bohemian court, her relationship with Wenceslaus grew stronger. He came to rely on her not just for political advice but also for emotional support. Wenceslaus, despite his outward confidence and ambition, was often weighed down by the pressures of ruling. Elisabeth became his sounding board, his confidant, and his most trusted ally. She helped him navigate the challenges of kingship, offering counsel when necessary and standing by him when he faced adversity. In the early years of their marriage, Elisabeth had also begun to think about the future of the Przemyslid dynasty. Wenceslaus II's reign was secure for the moment, but dynastic continuity was never guaranteed. The birth of their son, Wenceslaus III, in 1291 marked a turning point for the family. Not only did the birth of an heir solidify Wenceslaus II's rule, but it also solidified Elisabeth's position within the royal family. The birth of a male heir was a momentous occasion, and Elisabeth took on the responsibility of ensuring that her son would be well educated and prepared to inherit the throne. Her role as a mother was just as important as her role as a queen. Elisabeth knew that her son's future would depend on the alliances she could build during his childhood. She worked closely with Wenceslaus II to establish a network of loyal supporters who would safeguard the future of the Przemyslid dynasty. Elisabeth's ability to balance her duties as a mother and a queen was a key factor in the longevity of her family's rule. As the years passed, Elisabeth's influence continued to grow, both within the Bohemian court and beyond. Her relationship with Wenceslaus deepened, and together they became a formidable political partnership. Elisabeth's influence was not confined to the domestic affairs of Bohemia. It reached far beyond the kingdom's borders, shaping the political landscape of Central Europe. The queen's role in the kingdom was essential not only in maintaining internal stability but also in securing Bohemia's place among the great powers of Europe. In the years that followed, Elisabeth's presence at court became indispensable. She was no longer just the wife of the king, she was a queen in her own right, one whose influence could not be ignored. Her legacy, however, would not be confined to her role as consort. Elisabeth was a political force to be reckoned with, one whose actions would help shape the destiny of not just her family but also the Kingdom of Bohemia. As the 1290s came to a close, Elisabeth's position within the court was solidified. She had gained the trust and respect of the Bohemian nobility, and her influence in Hungary remained as strong as ever. But her most important legacy would be the role she played in the stability and expansion of Bohemia under her husband's rule. Together, Elisabeth and Wenceslaus II had laid the foundation for a powerful Bohemian state, one that would endure for years to come, even after Wenceslaus's untimely death. As the years passed and Elisabeth's role in the Bohemian court grew stronger, the political landscape of Europe continued to shift. In the early 1290s, the political environment in Central Europe was complex and often unstable. Wenceslaus II, now firmly established as the King of Bohemia, sought to expand his influence, especially over neighboring Poland, and strengthen his kingdom's position within the broader European framework. However, his ambitions required careful balancing, as the region was home to other ambitious rulers, each vying for control of their respective territories. The strategic marriage between Elisabeth and Wenceslaus II had already proven to be a wise political move, but it was not a mere formality. Elisabeth's Hungarian heritage and her ability to navigate the intricacies of both Bohemian and Hungarian politics played a central role in maintaining the fragile alliance between the two kingdoms. The marriage, arranged to solidify ties between Bohemia and Hungary, had been the foundation for a broader, more powerful alliance, a union that would prove pivotal in the years that followed. As a queen consort, Elizabeth knew the importance of diplomacy and tact. It was not just her husband's aspirations that she had to support, but also the stability of the two kingdoms they now represented. Throughout her marriage to Wenceslaus, Elizabeth was constantly involved in negotiations, working with Hungary's nobility to ensure their support for the Bohemian crown, though her primary allegiance remained with her husband. Her deep connections to Hungary allowed her to act as a bridge between the two powers. In 1290, soon after Elizabeth's marriage to Wenceslaus II, the political focus shifted. Poland, long a powerful neighbor to Bohemia, was undergoing a period of political fragmentation. The Polish throne was contested, and Wenceslaus saw an opportunity to expand Bohemia's reach into Poland. This ambition was not only driven by personal interest but by the desire to position Bohemia as a dominant power in Central Europe. With Elizabeth's influence, the kingdom had a solid foundation for this expansion. Her diplomatic relationships in Hungary and the broader region provided Wenceslaus II with the leverage he needed to press his claim. Elizabeth understood that securing Bohemia's future required more than just military success. It required strategic alliances, deft diplomacy, and a constant attention to the shifting political winds of Europe. Wenceslaus had designs on the Polish crown, and Elizabeth's role in facilitating these ambitions was vital. Her political acumen and ability to negotiate with the Hungarian and Polish nobility were crucial in paving the way for her husband's claim. The marriage had also brought Elizabeth significant personal responsibilities. She was now not only a consort but a political figure in her own right. With the future of her children and the pre-Msled dynasty at stake, the couple's firstborn, Wenceslaus III, was a symbol of both personal joy and political necessity. With a male heir, the pre-Msled dynasty had a future beyond the reign of Wenceslaus II. Elizabeth, ever the pragmatic queen, understood that her role was as much about securing her son's future as it was about supporting her husband's reign. Her position at court was increasingly significant as time passed. Elizabeth was not only a trusted advisor to Wenceslaus but also a central figure in the internal politics of Bohemia. She worked tirelessly to gain the loyalty of the Bohemian nobility, whose support was essential for her husband's plans. However, this was no easy task. The nobility, though loyal to the crown, were often divided in their interests, and securing their allegiance required careful negotiation and sometimes even the promise of favors or land. Elizabeth's relationships within the Bohemian court were as strategic as they were personal. She developed strong ties with key nobles, many of whom were influential figures in the kingdom's administration. Through these alliances, she was able to ensure that her husband's decisions were met with the support of those whose loyalty could be swayed. Elizabeth's ability to navigate this complex political environment and manage the kingdom's internal dynamics was critical to her husband's success. She became indispensable not only in diplomacy but in ensuring that Bohemia remained unified during a time of transition. Elizabeth's influence wasn't confined solely to Bohemia's internal politics. Her role as a queen consort allowed her to forge connections with external powers as well, especially Hungary. The relationship between Bohemia and Hungary was crucial to both kingdoms' success. Elizabeth worked tirelessly to maintain this bond, which was vital to the stability of both realms. Her family ties, her knowledge of Hungary's political landscape, and her deft diplomatic skills made her the perfect person to strengthen this alliance. Elizabeth's diplomatic negotiations on behalf of Bohemia were just as important as any military action taken by her husband. Her role in the court of Bohemia evolved. She was not only a mediator between her husband and the nobility, but also a political strategist who understood the nuances of royal diplomacy. As Bohemia's international relationships deepened, Elizabeth played a key role in managing those relations. She was instrumental in coordinating diplomatic missions and alliances, particularly as Wenceslaus expanded his ambitions for the Polish throne. In the early 1300s, as Wenceslaus sought to assert his claim over Poland, Elizabeth's presence in the political sphere became even more critical. Her ability to mediate between different factions, both within Bohemia and in neighboring kingdoms, ensured that the Polish campaign was supported by key players in both Bohemia and Hungary. Elizabeth's diplomatic negotiations were not just about securing the Polish throne for her husband. They were about ensuring the stability of the family, the dynasty, and the future of Bohemia itself. As the years progressed, the relationship between Wenceslaus II and Elizabeth deepened. Wenceslaus had always been ambitious, but it was Elizabeth who provided the steady, measured counsel he needed to navigate the often turbulent political landscape of medieval Europe. Her influence on his decisions, particularly regarding Poland, Hungary, and Bohemia, was profound. The Bohemian court, which had once been a realm of uncertainty and division, had now become a unified force, thanks in no small part to Elizabeth's guidance and political acumen. Yet, despite the political triumphs, Elizabeth never lost sight of her primary responsibility, ensuring the future of her family and securing the Przemyslid dynasty. The birth of Wenceslaus III in 1291 solidified her role as a mother of the future ruler of Bohemia. She and Wenceslaus II both understood the significance of securing an heir, and Elizabeth's influence in the early years of her son's life was profound. Her involvement in his education, the strategic marriages she orchestrated, and the alliances she built all contributed to the long-term success of the Przemyslid family. Through it all, Elizabeth remained a figure of unwavering support for her husband. Her diplomatic prowess and ability to manage both domestic and international affairs made her an indispensable figure in Bohemia's political sphere. With each passing year, her influence continued to grow, shaping not only the political landscape of Bohemia but the future of her family and the realm itself. The union between Elizabeth and Wenceslaus II, though originally forged through political necessity, had become one of deep mutual respect and shared ambition. As the years passed and Elizabeth continued to settle into her role as queen consort of Bohemia, the kingdom itself entered a new phase of stability and ambition. The early challenges of Wenceslaus II's reign had begun to ease, largely thanks to the political and diplomatic strategies of Elizabeth. What began as a marriage of political necessity had evolved into a partnership that would define the future of both Bohemia and the entire region. Wenceslaus II, despite his ambition, was a ruler often weighed down by the pressures of kingship. While he sought to expand Bohemia's borders, he found himself facing internal strife and the complex relationships between the Bohemian nobility, who, despite their loyalty to the crown, often sought greater autonomy. The challenge for Wenceslaus was not only to govern effectively but also to maintain the fragile alliances that kept his kingdom together. Elizabeth, with her keen political insight and understanding of court dynamics, had already proved herself a crucial advisor to her husband. As Wenceslaus focused on external expansion, Elizabeth became more deeply involved in managing the kingdom's internal politics. She used her position to act as a mediator between the monarch and the nobility, skillfully navigating the often turbulent waters of Bohemian feudalism. One of Elizabeth's most important contributions during this time was her role in stabilizing the Bohemian court. While the kingdom itself faced few direct threats, it was vulnerable to division from within. Nobles frequently challenged royal authority, and the court was rife with factions vying for power. Elizabeth, however, played a pivotal role in uniting these factions, not through brute force or intimidation, but through careful diplomacy and negotiation. She was a constant presence in court discussions, her counsel sought by both Wenceslaus and the key members of the Bohemian aristocracy. Through her efforts, she helped maintain a balance of power that allowed Wenceslaus to rule more effectively. Elizabeth's growing influence wasn't just confined to the court. As her husband's trusted advisor, she became a powerful voice in matters of foreign diplomacy. Wenceslaus's ambitions to expand Bohemia's power beyond its borders were becoming more pronounced, particularly with his increasingly assertive claims on the Polish throne. As these ambitions began to take shape, Elizabeth was there, playing a key role in negotiating alliances, securing support from neighboring kingdoms, and ensuring that Bohemia's interests were advanced. But her diplomatic skills were not limited to the broader political landscape of Europe. Elizabeth was also deeply involved in the everyday governance of the kingdom. She had a keen understanding of the needs and concerns of the Bohemian people, especially the lower nobility, who often felt alienated by the centralization of power. Elizabeth used her personal charm and political skill to foster a sense of loyalty among the Bohemian nobility, ensuring that Wenceslaus's rule was not just tolerated but actively supported. Her role in bridging the gap between the monarchy and the aristocracy was crucial in preserving the stability of the kingdom. Her political savvy was also seen in her dealings with her own family in Hungary. The connection between Bohemia and Hungary remained a cornerstone of Elizabeth's diplomacy, and she worked tirelessly to ensure that the alliance between the two kingdoms remained strong. Her dual role as a Hungarian princess and the Queen of Bohemia allowed her to navigate the political currents of both realms with ease. She understood that, in order to secure the future of Bohemia, she had to maintain peace with Hungary and strengthen the ties between the two crowns. Elizabeth's ability to move between these two political spheres, Bohemia and Hungary, was a testament to her diplomatic skill. She worked behind the scenes to secure alliances that would benefit both kingdoms, whether negotiating on behalf of Bohemia and Hungary or vice versa. Elizabeth played a crucial role in ensuring that the two realms remained united in their shared interests. As Wenceslaus II sought to expand his influence further into Poland, Elizabeth's role became even more pronounced. Her diplomatic negotiations with Polish nobility were crucial in the success of the Bohemian claim to the Polish throne. Elizabeth's knowledge of the political landscape in Poland, combined with her personal connections, made her an invaluable asset to her husband. She worked tirelessly to secure alliances with key Polish factions, ensuring that the path to the Polish throne was as smooth as possible. Elizabeth's efforts were not just confined to diplomacy. As a mother to her son, Wenceslaus III, she understood that the future of the Przemysl dynasty rested on the next generation. She worked closely with her husband to ensure that their son was well-educated and prepared to inherit the throne. Elizabeth's influence extended to the upbringing of Wenceslaus III, who was groomed to one day take the reins of the kingdom. Wenceslaus III, born in 1291, was the couple's firstborn son and the heir to the Bohemian throne. His birth was not only a moment of personal joy for Elizabeth and Wenceslaus II, but a critical moment for the future of the dynasty. The Bohemian throne had been a tumultuous seat for the previous rulers, and Elizabeth was determined that her son would be prepared to lead in a way that would preserve the strength and stability of the Przemysl dynasty. She worked closely with her husband to secure his education, surround him with loyal advisors, and ensure that he understood the complexities of governance. In the years that followed, Elizabeth continued to maintain a delicate balance between her duties as a queen and as a mother. While her husband was focused on expanding Bohemia's territorial reach, Elizabeth's attention was fixed on the future. She knew that the success of Wenceslaus II's reign and the survival of their family's dynasty depended on the careful grooming of their son. She worked tirelessly to ensure that he would inherit a strong, stable kingdom, one that was firmly rooted in the alliances and diplomatic ties that she had helped to secure. Despite her growing influence in the court and the kingdom, Elizabeth remained a deeply devoted wife to Wenceslaus II. Their marriage, once primarily a political alliance, had evolved into a true partnership. Elizabeth's counsel was sought by Wenceslaus in all matters of state, and their relationship had become one of mutual respect and affection. She was no longer just a queen consort, but a queen in her own right, a ruler whose influence reached beyond the walls of the palace and into the very fabric of Bohemian society. Elizabeth's role as a political partner to Wenceslaus II had cemented her place in the history of Bohemia. Her diplomatic skill, her ability to navigate the complexities of court politics, and her unwavering support for her husband had ensured that Wenceslaus's reign was one of relative stability and success. She had helped build the foundation for a stronger Bohemia, one that would continue to grow in power and influence under her husband's leadership. As Bohemia entered the early years of the 1300s, Elizabeth's position as queen had become more influential than ever. Her strategic alliances, her ability to unite the nobility, and her role as a diplomatic mediator between kingdoms were crucial to the future of the realm. Her influence was felt far beyond the walls of the Bohemian court, as her political decisions shaped not only the destiny of her family but the future of Central Europe. With Wenceslaus II firmly on the throne, Elizabeth's influence continued to grow. She was not just the wife of the king, but a queen whose decisions would help shape the future of Bohemia. As Wenceslaus pressed forward with his territorial ambitions, Elisabeth stood beside him, not only as his queen but as his most trusted advisor, his political partner, and his greatest ally. As the political landscape of Central Europe continued to evolve, so too did Elizabeth's role in shaping the future of Bohemia. Her growing influence at court, both as a trusted advisor and as a diplomatic powerhouse, became instrumental in furthering Wenceslaus II's ambitions. The 1290s had been a time of consolidation for the Bohemian kingdom, but as the new century dawned, the ambitions of both Wenceslaus and Elizabeth shifted toward securing Bohemia's place in the broader European context. Their efforts, both domestic and foreign, would redefine the trajectory of the kingdom for years to come. One of the key areas where Elizabeth's influence would prove vital was in the realm of diplomacy. While Wenceslaus II was focused on expanding Bohemia's territorial holdings, particularly through his claim to the Polish throne, Elizabeth played a critical role in ensuring that these ambitions were supported by other European powers. The region was in a constant state of flux, with alliances shifting and conflicts brewing between neighboring kingdoms. Elizabeth's ability to maintain and solidify relationships with Hungary, Poland, and other important neighbors would be pivotal in securing Bohemia's expansionist goals. In 1300, Wenceslaus II made his bold move to secure the Polish throne. With the Polish crown in sight, the Bohemian king needed to gain the support of the Polish nobility and ensure that his claim would be recognized by the broader European powers. Wenceslaus could not achieve this on his own. He needed both military support and diplomatic backing. This is where Elizabeth's influence truly came to the forefront. As a Hungarian princess, Elizabeth was uniquely positioned to play a key role in mediating the relationships between Bohemia and Poland. Her deep connections to the Hungarian court and her familiarity with the intricacies of European diplomacy gave her the leverage needed to act as a go-between for the two kingdoms. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Hungary, a powerful neighbor, remained supportive of Bohemia's claim to Poland. Elizabeth's ability to leverage her family ties and her diplomatic acumen allowed her to act as a stabilizing force in an increasingly tense political environment. But Elizabeth's diplomatic reach did not stop there. With Wenceslaus aiming to extend Bohemia's influence across the borderlands of Poland, she understood that securing support from other European powers was crucial. As the daughter of King Stephen V of Hungary, Elizabeth was no stranger to the complexities of managing dynastic alliances. She used her position to strengthen ties between Bohemia and Hungary, ensuring that the alliance remained steadfast. Even as Wenceslaus' ambitions grew, Hungary's support for Bohemia's claim to Poland was instrumental in ensuring that Wenceslaus II's rule was solidified in both Poland and Bohemia. Elizabeth also worked diligently to maintain good relations with the other powers in Europe. Bohemia's position, wedged between powerful neighbors, required a careful balancing act. Elizabeth's diplomatic influence extended beyond the borders of Hungary and Poland. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Bohemia remained on good terms with Austria, France, and other influential kingdoms of the time. Through strategic marriages, gifts, and diplomatic missions, Elizabeth was able to maintain Bohemia's position as a rising power in Central Europe. In addition to her diplomatic efforts, Elizabeth played an active role in the domestic politics of Bohemia. Though Wenceslaus was the public face of the kingdom, Elizabeth's influence behind the scenes was undeniable. As queen consort, she was not merely a figurehead. She was an active participant in the day-to-day affairs of the court. She played a key role in managing the kingdom's finances, advising on matters of taxation and resource allocation, and ensuring that the royal treasury remained well-stocked to fund the king's ambitions. Elizabeth also understood the importance of public perception. A queen in the medieval world was not just a wife and mother, she was a symbol of the kingdom's strength and unity. Elizabeth worked to present herself as a queen who could be relied upon not just by her husband but by the people of Bohemia as well. Her role in public life was one of compassion and understanding. She took a special interest in the welfare of Bohemia's citizens, particularly the women and children. Elizabeth's personal charm and kindness were widely recognized, and she became a beloved figure in the eyes of the people. Her charity and concern for the well-being of Bohemia's poor cemented her place in the hearts of the people. As Wenceslaus' reign continued, Elizabeth's political role evolved. She was no longer just a queen consort, she had become a full partner in the governance of Bohemia. Her influence in the court was such that even the most powerful nobles came to her for advice. She was instrumental in securing the loyalty of Bohemia's noble houses, many of whom had once been skeptical of the young king's ability to rule. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills and her ability to unite the various factions within the kingdom helped secure Wenceslaus' position and ensure the continued strength of the Bohemian crown. Her role was not without its challenges, however. The nobility's ever-present desire for more power and independence often put her in difficult positions. Elizabeth had to constantly balance the needs and desires of the aristocracy with the broader goals of her husband's reign. This was particularly evident as Wenceslaus began to extend his influence over Poland. While the Polish crown seemed within reach, Elizabeth knew that the Polish nobility could easily turn against Wenceslaus if they felt that their interests were being overlooked. In response, Elizabeth worked to ensure that key Polish leaders were brought into the fold. Through a series of diplomatic missions, she helped to broker agreements between Bohemia and Poland, ensuring that the transition of power would be smooth. Elizabeth's efforts helped secure the Polish throne for her husband, but it was her ability to manage the delicate politics of the transition that ensured that Wenceslaus' reign would be uncontested. By the time Wenceslaus II was formally crowned King of Poland in 1300, Elizabeth's influence was felt throughout Central Europe. Her efforts to maintain diplomatic ties, manage Bohemia's internal politics, and secure alliances with neighboring kingdoms had laid the groundwork for Bohemia's expansion. As the queen consort, Elizabeth had not only supported her husband's ambitions but had played a key role in bringing those ambitions to fruition. In the years that followed, Elizabeth continued to play an essential role in Bohemia's political landscape. She was no longer just the wife of the king. She was a queen in her own right, a political strategist whose influence shaped the destiny of both Bohemia and Hungary. Through her tireless efforts, Elizabeth helped to elevate Bohemia to the status of a dominant power in Central Europe, ensuring that the kingdom would remain a force to be reckoned with long after her death. The birth of Wenceslaus III in 1291 marked a pivotal moment in the life of Elizabeth and Wenceslaus II. While the personal joy of becoming parents was undoubtedly immense, the political ramifications of their son's arrival could not be overlooked. The birth of a male heir was not just a celebration of new life. It was a critical moment for the future of the pre-Misled dynasty and the continued stability of Bohemia. For Elizabeth, this moment marked the beginning of a new chapter, one where her role as a mother would become as significant as her role as a queen. In the medieval world, the birth of an heir was a momentous occasion for any ruling family. It was the symbol of continuity, the assurance that the throne would remain within the family line. For Elizabeth, the birth of Wenceslaus III was not only a personal triumph but a political necessity. The early years of Wenceslaus II's reign had been fraught with instability, and the death of his father, Przemysl Ottokar II, had left Bohemia in a state of political flux. Having a male heir was crucial for maintaining the legitimacy of the pre-Misled dynasty and ensuring that the throne would not be claimed by rival factions. Elizabeth understood the importance of her son's birth, and she immediately set about ensuring that Wenceslaus III would be raised as a future ruler, one who would be well prepared to inherit the complex and challenging role of monarch. She and Wenceslaus II worked together to ensure that their son received the best education available, one that would equip him with the necessary skills to navigate the intricacies of ruling Bohemia and maintaining the power of their dynasty. The birth of Wenceslaus III was not just about the family's personal joy, it was a direct response to the political pressures that Bohemia faced. At the time, the Bohemian throne had been threatened by competing noble families, each eager to assert their own influence over the kingdom. Elizabeth knew that the best way to secure her son's future was to solidify the royal family's position by gaining the support of the Bohemian nobility. The birth of an heir meant that Elizabeth's influence at court would only grow stronger as the nobility recognized the importance of preserving the dynasty. In the early years of Wenceslaus III's life, Elizabeth worked tirelessly to surround him with loyal advisors who would guide him and ensure that his future reign would be a successful one. As a queen and mother, Elizabeth understood that her son's education was just as important as his birthright. She took great care in choosing tutors who could impart not just knowledge of history and governance but the personal qualities needed to be a strong, wise ruler. Elisabeth knew that for her son to thrive as a king, he would need more than just book learning. He would need to develop the ability to make tough decisions, mediate disputes, and lead with both wisdom and strength. While Wenceslaus II focused on securing the borders of Bohemia, particularly through his claims to Poland and other territories, Elisabeth concentrated on matters closer to home. She became deeply involved in the upbringing of her son, using her influence at court to ensure that he would grow up with the right values and principles. Elisabeth's role as a mother was not just about raising her son. It was about preparing him to be a ruler who could continue the work of his father and mother and strengthen Bohemia for future generations. During this time, Elisabeth's relationship with Wenceslaus II deepened. As the father of their son, Wenceslaus II shared Elisabeth's hopes for the future of the kingdom. They both understood the immense pressure that came with securing the dynasty's future. The presence of a son gave them both a renewed sense of purpose, a purpose that would see them both working together to ensure that their child was raised in an environment conducive to his growth as a future king. Their shared dedication to their son's upbringing and the future of Bohemia cemented their status not only as husband and wife but as political partners in the truest sense of the word. Despite the political demands that constantly pulled on Wenceslaus II's time and attention, he remained deeply involved in his son's early life. Wenceslaus II saw the birth of Wenceslaus III not just as the beginning of a new generation, but as the means by which the power and influence of the Přemysl dynasty would be preserved. The relationship between Wenceslaus II and his son was one of deep mutual respect and understanding. While Wenceslaus II had to make tough decisions as a monarch, he also understood the importance of fatherhood and the role he played in his son's life. In Elisabeth, he had a supportive and capable partner who shared his vision for their son's future. As the years went by, Elisabeth's role in the court continued to evolve. Her position was no longer just that of a queen consort or a political advisor. She was now a mother and a protector of the dynasty. She worked to ensure that Wenceslaus III was seen as the rightful heir to the throne, not just by the nobles but by the people of Bohemia as well. Elisabeth knew that, for her son to succeed, he would need the support of the kingdom, and she spared no effort in ensuring that he would have it. The relationship between Elisabeth and the Bohemian nobility was crucial during this time. While Wenceslaus II worked to expand Bohemia's territorial holdings, Elisabeth focused on strengthening the ties between the monarchy and the nobility. She was instrumental in building alliances with key families, securing loyalty, and ensuring that any opposition to the throne was quelled before it could gain traction. Elisabeth's diplomatic skills were put to the test as she worked tirelessly to maintain peace and stability within Bohemia. For Elisabeth, the future of Bohemia was intricately tied to the future of her son. The idea of dynastic succession was central to the preservation of the kingdom's strength. As the Queen Mother, Elisabeth understood that her son's future was inextricably linked to the decisions she made as a political figure. While she supported her husband's ambitions to expand Bohemia's reach, she was equally dedicated to ensuring that Wenceslaus III would inherit a kingdom that was strong, stable, and capable of withstanding external threats. The birth of Wenceslaus III did not just signify a new chapter in Elisabeth's personal life, it marked the beginning of a new era for Bohemia. As the young heir grew, Elisabeth worked to ensure that the kingdom remained strong, both internally and externally. She knew that her efforts would shape the future of the dynasty, and she was prepared to give everything she had to ensure that Bohemia thrived in the years to come. Elisabeth's determination and foresight during this period would prove to be crucial in the future of Bohemia. Her son's upbringing, her political savvy, and her ability to unite the various factions of the Bohemian court would ensure that the Přemysl dynasty would not only survive but thrive for generations to come. In her role as a mother, she would lay the foundation for her son's reign, and in doing so, she would secure the future of Bohemia itself. As the 1290s drew to a close and the early years of the 1300s began, the Kingdom of Bohemia faced a new set of challenges. While Elisabeth and Wenceslaus II had secured a relatively stable political environment and strengthened their alliances, internal struggles within the kingdom began to simmer. Bohemia, though a powerful kingdom in Central Europe, was far from unified. The nobility, which held significant sway over regional matters, often found itself at odds with the central authority of the monarch. Wenceslaus II, despite his ambition and accomplishments, was not immune to the pressures of ruling such a fractured kingdom. His desire to expand Bohemia's borders, especially his claim to Poland, had generated political unrest. The Polish claim, while one of his most significant ambitions, had deepened the divide between the crown and some factions of the Bohemian nobility who feared that further expansion would alienate them from the power they wielded within the kingdom. This internal strife put additional strain on the monarchy and the royal family, forcing Elizabeth to take on an even greater role in the kingdom's affairs. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills were put to the test as she worked to keep the nobility in check. While many of the nobles recognized the power and importance of the monarchy, there was a growing sense of discontent regarding Wenceslaus's increasing centralization of power. They felt threatened by his consolidation of authority. And Elizabeth knew that if she did not act swiftly, the nobility could destabilize the entire kingdom. Despite the growing tensions at court, Elizabeth was not one to shy away from difficult situations. Her political acumen, her understanding of the delicate balance of power, and her ability to read the shifting moods of the nobility proved to be crucial assets during this time. She knew that a kingdom could not be ruled effectively without the support of its nobles, and she worked tirelessly to ensure that their grievances were addressed without undermining her husband's authority. The situation was further complicated by the political struggles within the royal family itself. The early years of Wenceslaus II's reign had seen some tension between him and his brothers, each of whom had their own ambitions for power. The conflict between the king and his family members only added to the stress of the political environment, and Elizabeth found herself caught in the middle. As a queen and a wife, she had a vested interest in ensuring the success of her husband's rule, but as a member of the royal family, she also felt the weight of the tensions that existed between Wenceslaus and his siblings. Through it all, Elizabeth maintained her composure and her influence. She became more deeply involved in managing the kingdom's internal affairs, taking on the role of a mediator and negotiator. While Wenceslaus was consumed with external matters, particularly his claims to Poland and his desire to expand Bohemia's influence, Elizabeth worked behind the scenes to keep the kingdom's internal balance intact. She acted as a go-between for the king and the nobility, helping to smooth over disputes and build bridges between rival factions within the court. One of Elizabeth's key strategies during this period was to build a network of loyal supporters who could help stabilize the kingdom. By offering positions of power and favor to key members of the nobility, she was able to ensure that Wenceslaus's rule was backed by those who had the most influence over the kingdom. She knew that the key to maintaining the peace in Bohemia was ensuring that the right people had a vested interest in the success of the monarchy. Her role as a diplomatic intermediary extended beyond Bohemia's borders as well. With tensions growing both internally and externally, Elizabeth worked to maintain Bohemia's alliances with neighboring kingdoms, particularly Hungary and Poland. Her relationship with Hungary remained one of Bohemia's most crucial diplomatic assets, and she used this connection to secure the support of Hungarian nobles for her husband's policies. Internally, Elizabeth also made efforts to address the growing unrest among the common people of Bohemia. The nobility's control over land and resources had led to growing inequality and dissatisfaction among the lower classes. Elizabeth, ever the pragmatist, understood that a kingdom cannot thrive if the common people are disillusioned and resentful. She used her position as queen to champion charitable initiatives and efforts to improve the living conditions of the people. Elizabeth's work in this regard was not just about securing the loyalty of the nobility, but about fostering a sense of unity and solidarity among the people of Bohemia. Despite Elizabeth's efforts, the political landscape of Bohemia remained precarious. The external pressures of territorial expansion combined with internal dissent created a volatile situation that required constant attention. Elizabeth's work as a mediator, her diplomatic skill, and her ability to balance the needs of the nobility with the central authority of the crown were more critical than ever. However, as Wenceslaus II's reign entered its later years, the kingdom was becoming increasingly difficult to manage. The strain of constant political maneuvering began to take its toll on Wenceslaus II. His desire to expand Bohemia's borders and increase its influence in Europe had led to both military victories and political challenges. The Polish crown was now under his control, but the acquisition of new lands brought with it the complicated task of governing them. The king found himself stretched thin, with limited resources to maintain control over the newly acquired territories and to manage the growing unrest at home. Elisabeth's role during this period became even more critical. As Wenceslaus struggled with the demands of ruling an expanding kingdom, Elisabeth stepped in to support him in ways that extended far beyond her duties as queen consort. She became an even more active figure in the governance of Bohemia, acting as a stabilizing force amid the political uncertainty. Her ability to maintain order within the court and manage the relationships between the monarchy and the nobility was crucial in keeping the kingdom together during this tumultuous period. As the political struggles within Bohemia continued to unfold, Elisabeth's position at court remained strong. She had weathered the storms of internal dissent and familial strife with grace and diplomacy. Her ability to manage the kingdom's internal affairs, her unwavering support for her husband, and her diplomatic efforts with neighboring kingdoms ensured that Bohemia remained a powerful force in Europe despite the growing challenges it faced. In many ways, Elisabeth had become the backbone of Wenceslaus II's reign. Her political instincts, her ability to negotiate with nobles, and her skill in managing relationships within and outside of Bohemia had helped to secure the future of the kingdom. But as Wenceslaus continued to push for further territorial expansion, Elisabeth knew that the kingdom could only withstand so much pressure before it would begin to crack under the strain. Her role as both a queen and a political partner would be tested like never before. The turn of the 14th century brought with it both triumphs and tensions for the Kingdom of Bohemia. Though the internal political struggles were far from over, Wenceslaus II's ambitions remained firmly focused on extending Bohemia's influence, particularly through his claim to the Polish throne. The Polish crown, long fragmented and contested, represented both a significant opportunity and a major risk for Bohemia. Wenceslaus, a man of vision and ambition, knew that claiming Poland would elevate Bohemia's position in Central Europe, cementing its status as a major power. However, this ambition also brought about external challenges, and Elisabeth found herself once again playing a central role in navigating these turbulent waters. Elisabeth, ever the diplomatic strategist, recognized that Wenceslaus II's Polish ambitions were as fraught with danger as they were with opportunity. As the queen consort of Bohemia, she had seen firsthand the political volatility of neighboring kingdoms. Poland, despite its internal divisions, was home to a powerful nobility, and its crown had been contested for years. Wenceslaus's desire to claim the Polish throne was not only a personal aspiration but also a strategic move to strengthen Bohemia's position in the region. Yet, it was a goal that would require delicate diplomacy, careful planning, and careful alliances. Wenceslaus II's efforts to gain control over Poland intensified around 1300 when he was officially crowned King of Poland. The move was a remarkable victory for Bohemia, but it was not without its complications. To solidify his claim, Wenceslaus needed the support of the Polish nobility, something far from guaranteed, given their independent spirit and reluctance to accept a foreign ruler. While the military campaign to assert control over Polish territories was underway, it was Elisabeth's diplomatic acumen that helped ensure the kingdom's claims were recognized and supported. She worked tirelessly behind the scenes to build alliances with key Polish families, offering them concessions and promises in exchange for their loyalty. As Wenceslaus expanded Bohemia's territorial reach into Poland, Elisabeth's influence was critical in securing the alliances needed to consolidate Bohemia's hold on the region. She understood the importance of marrying both military might and political negotiation. The Polish nobility, often skeptical of Bohemia's ambitions, needed to be convinced that their interests would be respected under Wenceslaus's rule. Elisabeth's role in this delicate process was indispensable. With her Hungarian background and her established position as a mediator, she leveraged her personal connections to create bridges between Bohemia and Poland. Her skill in negotiation, coupled with her deep understanding of royal diplomacy, allowed her to pave the way for her husband's success. Elisabeth's diplomatic work was not limited to Poland. The expansion of Bohemia's power came with the need to manage relations with other European powers, particularly the Kingdom of Hungary. As the daughter of King Stephen V of Hungary, Elizabeth had always been able to maintain a special relationship with the Hungarian court. However, as Bohemia's ambitions grew, this relationship became even more important. Elizabeth's role as a link between Bohemia and Hungary allowed her to maintain peace and secure the backing of Hungary for her husband's endeavors. This alliance was crucial in ensuring that Bohemia's territorial expansion did not provoke conflict with Hungary, a powerful neighbor with its own interests in Central Europe. While Elizabeth's diplomatic efforts were critical to securing the Polish crown for her husband, the military campaign itself was far from easy. Wenceslaus had to navigate not only the physical challenges of warfare but also the complexities of managing newly acquired territories. The Polish nobility, despite Elizabeth's best efforts, remained largely resistant to Bohemia's control, and tensions continued to simmer in the region. Wenceslaus, determined to maintain control over Poland, found himself embroiled in a struggle that was as much about politics as it was about military strength. As the conflict dragged on, Elizabeth found herself increasingly involved in the management of Bohemia's foreign relations, using her political skills to stabilize the situation and prevent further unrest. Amidst these external conflicts, Elizabeth also faced the growing strain of being a mother to a young heir, Wenceslaus III. The pressures of ensuring the future of the pre-Misled dynasty weighed heavily on her. While her husband's reign was expanding, Elizabeth knew that her son's future was far from secure. The kingdom was fraught with challenges, and with the expansion into Poland came the added complexity of maintaining the loyalty of the nobility. Elizabeth worked tirelessly to ensure that Wenceslaus III was prepared for the weight of the crown, even though his time to ascend the throne seemed distant. She surrounded him with trusted advisors and ensured that he received the best education to prepare him for his eventual role as king. Throughout this period, Elizabeth remained a quiet yet steady presence in the court. While Wenceslaus was consumed with external affairs, particularly his Polish ambitions, Elizabeth continued to be a stabilizing force within Bohemia. She worked to maintain peace within the kingdom, keeping the nobility in check and ensuring that Wenceslaus's internal support remained strong. She also continued to manage Bohemia's diplomatic efforts, ensuring that the kingdom's relationships with Poland, Hungary, and other European powers remained intact. As the Bohemian claim to Poland solidified, Elizabeth's role as a queen consort and diplomatic advisor became more critical than ever. Her ability to balance her duties as a mother, wife, and political strategist was a testament to her resilience. While Wenceslaus sought to expand Bohemia's influence and ensure its place among the great powers of Europe, Elizabeth worked to preserve the kingdom's stability, working tirelessly behind the scenes to maintain the delicate balance of power. Wenceslaus II's reign had been one of ambition, expansion, and internal strife. Yet it was Elizabeth's quiet strength, her skill in diplomacy, and her unwavering support for her husband that allowed Bohemia to endure. As Wenceslaus pushed for further territorial expansion, particularly in Poland, Elizabeth's influence continued to grow. Her ability to manage relationships, both within and outside the kingdom, was key to maintaining Bohemia's position in Central Europe. Yet, despite the triumphs, the expansion of Bohemia came with its own set of challenges. The political landscape of Europe was constantly shifting, and as Wenceslaus II's ambitions stretched further, so did the pressures of maintaining control over an ever-growing kingdom. Elizabeth knew that while their territorial conquests were important, the true strength of Bohemia lay in the loyalty and support of its people and nobles. She had always been a steady hand, guiding her husband through the storms of politics. And now, with the Polish crown secured, her work was far from over. The challenges of maintaining Bohemia's power and ensuring the future of her son weighed heavily on her, but Elizabeth remained resolute. As the years of Wenceslaus II's reign progressed, Elizabeth found herself increasingly balancing the dual roles of queen consort of Bohemia and a political agent of Hungary. Her marriage to Wenceslaus had forged a powerful alliance between the two kingdoms, but as Bohemia's influence in Central Europe expanded, Elizabeth's role in Hungary became even more critical. The alliance that had initially been forged for political expedience was now the foundation for Elizabeth's growing influence in both kingdoms, and her ability to navigate the complex relationships between Bohemia and Hungary became one of her greatest strengths, though Elizabeth's primary allegiance was to her husband and her son. Her roots in Hungary through her father King Stephen V meant that she was uniquely positioned to act as a bridge between the two powerful realms. The relationship between Bohemia and Hungary was not always smooth. Hungary, like many kingdoms in medieval Europe, had its own ambitions, and the interests of its nobility did not always align with the goals of Bohemia. Yet Elizabeth, as a daughter of Hungary's royal family, had a deep understanding of its internal politics and the personalities of its key players. This allowed her to navigate the complexities of her dual role with remarkable skill. The Hungarian court was a place where politics were often determined by the whims of powerful nobles. The nobility wielded significant influence, and the power struggles that marked Hungarian history were ever present. Elizabeth's ability to manage her relationships with these powerful families was a testament to her diplomatic acumen. She understood that in order to maintain the fragile alliance between Bohemia and Hungary, she had to ensure that Hungary's nobility remained satisfied and supportive of both kingdoms' shared interests. This required constant negotiation, offering favors, and securing the loyalty of key figures within the Hungarian aristocracy. In her role as queen consort, Elizabeth was not just a mediator between her husband and the Hungarian nobility. She also played a crucial part in shaping Hungary's internal politics. Elizabeth's influence was often felt in the court of her brother, Charles II of Hungary, with whom she maintained a close relationship. Despite the tensions that sometimes arose between the two kingdoms, Elizabeth was able to maintain a stable relationship with Hungary's leadership. Her ability to act as a peacemaker between the two powers was invaluable, especially as Bohemia's territorial expansion increasingly threatened to upset the balance of power in Central Europe. Her position as a member of the Hungarian royal family was a double-edged sword. While it provided her with unique access to the Hungarian court, it also placed her in a difficult position when Hungary's interests diverged from those of Bohemia. Elizabeth was forced to continuously walk a tightrope between loyalty to her husband and maintaining her ties to her native kingdom. She had to navigate delicate political situations where Hungary's ambition to expand or maintain its own influence might conflict with Bohemia's desires. Elizabeth's role in Hungary extended beyond the political sphere. As a queen consort, she had a responsibility to ensure that her family's interests were also represented within the kingdom. When she visited Hungary, she was seen not just as the Queen of Bohemia but as a symbol of the union between the two nations. Her presence at court was a reminder of the shared history and the alliances that held the two kingdoms together. Her influence was particularly crucial during times of political upheaval in Hungary, where factions often rose to challenge the ruling monarch. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills were key in quelling unrest, ensuring that Hungary remained stable and that the interests of Bohemia were not jeopardized by internal strife. The political landscape in Hungary was constantly shifting. As Wenceslaus continued his territorial expansion and sought to consolidate his rule in Poland, the balance of power in Central Europe remained in flux. Hungary, a powerful kingdom in its own right, watched closely as Bohemia expanded its reach. Elizabeth's diplomatic efforts were focused on ensuring that Bohemia's ambitions did not provoke hostility from Hungary. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Hungary remained supportive of Bohemia's territorial expansion, particularly in the case of Poland. While Hungary was often wary of Bohemia's growing power, Elizabeth's careful management of the relationship between the two kingdoms ensured that tensions were kept in check. Elizabeth's political role in Hungary was further strengthened by the birth of her son, Wenceslaus III. The heir to the Bohemian throne, Wenceslaus III represented the future of both kingdoms, and his birth solidified Elizabeth's position as a central figure in the politics of both Bohemia and Hungary. She knew that the survival of her son's reign would depend on the continued loyalty of the Hungarian court. As the mother of the future king of Bohemia, Elizabeth's ability to secure Hungary's support for her son became a top priority. In the years following Wenceslaus III's birth, Elizabeth's relationship with Hungary's political leaders remained a delicate balancing act. While she was seen as a powerful and influential queen consort in Bohemia, she was also viewed as a daughter of Hungary's royal house. She had to carefully navigate the expectations of both sides, ensuring that neither her family's interests nor her husband's reign were compromised. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills were constantly tested as she worked to maintain peace and cooperation between the two kingdoms. Her role in Hungary became more critical as the tensions between Bohemia and its neighbors grew. By the time Wenceslaus II passed away in 1305, Elizabeth had firmly established herself as a powerful force within both Bohemia and Hungary. Her diplomatic successes, her ability to maintain alliances, and her influence over the Hungarian court had solidified her position as one of the most important political figures in Central Europe. Though her husband's reign had ended in tragedy, Elizabeth's work in preserving the unity of the two kingdoms would remain a crucial aspect of her legacy. Despite the challenges of her time, Elizabeth's influence in Hungary and Bohemia helped to secure the future of her son, Wenceslaus III. Though his reign would ultimately be short-lived, Elizabeth's ability to navigate the political complexities of both kingdoms ensured that Bohemia remained a powerful force in Central Europe. Her role as a queen consort, diplomat, and mother would leave an indelible mark on the history of both Bohemia and Hungary. Elizabeth's ability to act as a unifying force between two powerful kingdoms demonstrated her exceptional political skills and her deep understanding of the intricacies of royal diplomacy. As a woman of both power and influence, she played a crucial role in shaping the political landscape of medieval Europe, ensuring that the ambitions of her husband and son were realized, even in the face of constant challenges. As the years of Wenceslaus II's reign unfolded, the internal pressures within Bohemia began to mount. The kingdom, while outwardly stable, was on the brink of political and social unrest. Wenceslaus had expanded Bohemia's borders into Poland, claimed new territories, and had forged powerful alliances with Hungary. But these victories were tempered by mounting domestic issues and rising tensions within the kingdom. Elizabeth, ever the astute political partner, found herself increasingly drawn into her husband's struggles, not just as a queen consort, but as a pillar of support for a ruler weighed down by the complexities of kingship. Wenceslaus II had always been an ambitious and capable monarch driven by a desire to elevate Bohemia's position in Central Europe. Yet, his vision of a more powerful and expansive kingdom had its costs. The very expansion that had brought Bohemia new lands also brought with it new challenges. The Bohemian nobility, who had long held significant power within the kingdom, were increasingly dissatisfied with Wenceslaus' efforts to centralize authority. The nobility, accustomed to a more decentralized system of rule, saw Wenceslaus's consolidation of power as a direct threat to their own influence and autonomy. Elizabeth, ever the pragmatist, recognized the growing dissatisfaction among the Bohemian aristocracy. While she knew that her husband's goals were essential for the kingdom's future, she also understood that maintaining the support of the nobility was crucial for his reign. Wenceslaus was often consumed with his foreign ambitions, particularly his claim to Poland and his broader vision for Bohemia's role in European affairs. But Elizabeth knew that a king could not rule without the backing of his people, and that included the powerful noble families who held significant sway over the kingdom's day-to-day governance. During this turbulent time, Elizabeth's influence in the court became more vital than ever. While Wenceslaus navigated his external ambitions, she focused on managing the internal divisions within the kingdom. Her diplomatic efforts were essential in calming the growing unrest within the Bohemian nobility. Elizabeth's ability to listen, mediate, and build consensus was unparalleled. She engaged in numerous discussions with the key nobles, offering compromises and securing their loyalty. Her reputation for being level-headed and politically astute earned her the respect of even the most powerful factions in the court. Despite her best efforts, however, the internal divisions within Bohemia began to take their toll on Wenceslaus II. The weight of governing a kingdom that was both expanding and struggling with internal dissent proved to be overwhelming. As Wenceslaus grew more embroiled in external affairs, particularly with Poland and Hungary, Elizabeth found herself shouldering more responsibility for the kingdom's internal governance. It was during these years that Elizabeth's role evolved from that of a supportive wife to an indispensable political partner. Her relationship with Wenceslaus, already one of deep respect and mutual dependence, grew even stronger during this time. The political landscape in Bohemia, fraught with internal and external challenges, required both of them to work together closely. Elisabeth became Wenceslaus' closest confidant, a steady hand guiding him through the turbulent political currents that threatened to destabilize his reign. In the face of increasing pressure, Wenceslaus relied on his wife more than ever, not just for her counsel, but for her emotional support as well. In addition to the domestic challenges, Elisabeth faced personal trials. As a mother to the young Wenceslaus III, she was acutely aware that the future of Bohemia rested not only on her husband's leadership but also on her son's eventual ascension to the throne. With her husband's reign in a fragile state, Elisabeth became even more invested in securing a stable and prosperous future for her son. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Wenceslaus III was well prepared to inherit the throne and carry on the legacy of the pre-Misled dynasty. Her son's education, his upbringing, and his eventual succession to the throne were of paramount importance to her. As the political winds of Bohemia shifted, Elisabeth became increasingly determined to ensure that her son would inherit a kingdom that was stable and unified, ready for the challenges ahead. Her dedication to her son's future did not come at the cost of her role as a queen and a political figure. Elisabeth's ability to balance her duties as a mother with her responsibilities as a queen consort and a diplomatic agent was nothing short of remarkable. She remained deeply involved in both domestic and foreign affairs, maintaining her influence within the Bohemian court and ensuring that her family's legacy was preserved. Elisabeth's vision for the future of Bohemia was always focused on the long term. While her husband's reign was in jeopardy, she knew that her son's future as king depended on the decisions she made in the present. As the years passed, the internal pressures within Bohemia continued to mount. The nobility, though loyal to the crown, became increasingly vocal in their demands for greater autonomy. Wenceslaus's push for centralization of power had alienated some of his most important supporters. Elisabeth once again found herself at the center of negotiations, using her diplomatic skills to broker peace and ensure that the nobility did not rebel against the crown. She understood that Bohemia's future stability depended on her ability to manage these internal struggles, and she worked tirelessly to maintain the delicate balance between royal authority and noble influence. Despite the growing internal unrest, Elisabeth remained a steadfast partner to her husband. Wenceslaus II, though burdened by the challenges of governance, relied on Elisabeth to maintain control over the court and the kingdom. Her loyalty to her husband, coupled with her political expertise, allowed her to navigate the most challenging periods of their reign. As Wenceslaus continued to struggle with both external threats and internal dissent, Elisabeth's role as the queen consort and political partner became ever more crucial to the survival of the Bohemian monarchy. The increasing instability within Bohemia, combined with the pressures of ruling an expanding kingdom, eventually led to Wenceslaus II's downfall. Despite his many accomplishments, including his expansion into Poland and his efforts to solidify Bohemia's position in Central Europe, the internal strife and external pressures proved too much for him to bear. However, Elisabeth's political efforts were far from in vain. As she worked tirelessly to maintain the unity of Bohemia, she secured her son's future as the kingdom's next ruler. Though her husband's reign came to a tragic end, Elisabeth's influence helped to ensure that the pre-Misled dynasty would survive. The death of Wenceslaus II in 1305 came as a shock not only to his family but also to the Kingdom of Bohemia, where his reign had been marked by both triumphs and tribulations. His passing left the kingdom in a state of uncertainty. Wenceslaus had been a strong and ambitious king, one who sought to expand Bohemia's territory and elevate its status in Central Europe. But his untimely death, amidst the internal divisions and external pressures that had plagued his reign, threatened to undo much of the progress he had made. With no immediate male heirs to succeed him, the political future of Bohemia seemed fragile at best. Elisabeth, however, was not a queen who would falter in the face of adversity. As the queen consort and mother of the young Wenceslaus III, she immediately understood the immense responsibility that now fell upon her shoulders. While Wenceslaus III was still a child, Elisabeth knew that the survival of the pre-Misled dynasty and the stability of Bohemia itself depended on her ability to navigate the tumultuous political landscape in the wake of her husband's death. In the hours and days following Wenceslaus II's death, Elisabeth began to take swift action. She assumed the role of regent for her son, who was still too young to rule in his own right. As regent, Elizabeth's task was clear. She had to hold Bohemia together, manage the noble factions that had once been divided under her husband's reign, and secure the throne for her son. The political environment in Bohemia was fraught with tension, and Elizabeth understood that she could not afford to lose control even for a moment. At court, Elizabeth's experience as a diplomat and political strategist was invaluable. She knew the Bohemian nobility well, having spent years navigating their complexities during her husband's reign. She understood their desires, their ambitions, and their vulnerabilities. Now, as regent, she used this knowledge to gain their support. Elizabeth worked tirelessly to maintain a delicate balance between the various factions within the court. She knew that the nobility would only rally behind her son's rule if they were convinced that the monarchy could continue to serve their interests while also maintaining the strength of the kingdom. One of her first actions as regent was to ensure that Wenceslaus III would be seen as the rightful heir to the throne. Although Elizabeth had always been dedicated to her son's future, her position as regent allowed her to shape his education and prepare him for his future role. She worked closely with trusted advisors, ensuring that Wenceslaus III received a proper education in governance, warfare, and diplomacy. Elizabeth knew that her son's reign, when it came, would depend on his ability to navigate the same political and diplomatic challenges that had shaped her own life. Despite her efforts to secure the throne for Wenceslaus III, Elizabeth faced significant resistance from the nobility. The death of Wenceslaus II had left a power vacuum, and various factions within the kingdom sought to capitalize on the situation. Some nobles, eager to seize more power for themselves, began to question the legitimacy of a young king, especially one who had not yet come into his own. Elizabeth, however, remained resolute. She relied on her long-standing relationships with key nobles to maintain a semblance of stability. By playing to the interests of Bohemia's most powerful families, she was able to prevent open rebellion and maintain control over the kingdom. In addition to managing internal strife, Elizabeth was also forced to deal with external threats. Wenceslaus II's expansionist ambitions had already stirred tensions with neighboring kingdoms, and with the Bohemian throne in flux, other rulers saw an opportunity to press their own claims. Elizabeth knew that the political stability of Bohemia depended on maintaining strong alliances with Hungary and Poland, both of which had been crucial to her husband's reign. Her efforts to secure these relationships would be tested as both kingdoms watched closely to see how Bohemia would handle the transition. Her most important diplomatic endeavor was ensuring that Hungary remained supportive of Wenceslaus III's rule. Elizabeth's close relationship with her brother, Charles II of Hungary, was instrumental in this regard. She worked tirelessly to ensure that Hungary would not take advantage of Bohemia's vulnerability in the wake of Wenceslaus II's death. Through a combination of personal diplomacy and strategic negotiations, Elizabeth was able to secure Hungary's support for her son's reign, ensuring that the kingdom's eastern borders remained stable. But even with her diplomatic victories, Elizabeth's role as regent was fraught with challenges. The pressure of governing a kingdom that had been fractured by internal division and external threats weighed heavily on her. Elizabeth knew that her actions during this period would shape not only the future of Bohemia but the legacy of the pre-Misled dynasty. Every decision she made had the potential to impact her son's future reign, and she was acutely aware of the stakes. Despite the difficulties she faced, Elizabeth never wavered in her commitment to preserving Bohemia's strength. She continued to work tirelessly to secure her son's future, focusing on both internal stability and external diplomacy. Her determination to protect the dynasty, even in the face of overwhelming odds, was a testament to her strength as a ruler in her own right. In the months following Wenceslaus II's death, Elizabeth remained a powerful force in Bohemia, ensuring that the kingdom remained unified and stable even as it navigated the challenges of dynastic succession. Elizabeth's regency was marked by a series of successes and setbacks. She was able to maintain control of the kingdom's key territories and prevent any significant uprisings from the nobility. However, as her son Wenceslaus III grew older, the pressures on her regency continued to mount. The political landscape of Central Europe was shifting, and Elizabeth knew that the days of her regency were numbered. Eventually, her son would have to assume the throne, and with that came the responsibility of navigating the complex web of European politics on his own. Elizabeth's legacy as regent would be one of resilience and strategic brilliance. While her reign as regent was short, her efforts ensured that Bohemia would remain intact during a time of great uncertainty. She secured her son's position as king and helped lay the groundwork for a stable future even as the challenges of ruling a kingdom in flux continued to unfold. Her strength, determination, and political savvy would remain a defining feature of her legacy, a legacy built not only on her role as a mother but also on her extraordinary capabilities as a ruler in her own right. Elizabeth's tenure as regent was a time of intense pressure, but also a period that showcased her political prowess, resilience, and unwavering commitment to the future of Bohemia. By the time her son, Wenceslaus III, began to take more control of his role as king, Elizabeth had already ensured that the kingdom remained intact through turbulent times. However, as much as she had prepared for the day when her son would ascend to the throne, the reality of ruling a kingdom marked by internal divisions, external threats, and the legacy of her late husband's ambitions was far more complicated than she had hoped. Wenceslaus III, though young and well-educated, was now the monarch of a kingdom that was beginning to unravel. The political landscape of Bohemia had changed since the death of Wenceslaus II. Elizabeth had worked tirelessly to maintain alliances, especially with Hungary, but there were new pressures emerging on all sides. The external threats from neighboring kingdoms had not abated, and the nobility of Bohemia, long accustomed to having a say in the kingdom's governance, was growing increasingly restless. As Wenceslaus III stepped into his role, Elizabeth could see the challenges ahead for him. Wenceslaus III was a boy king, still finding his footing as a ruler. The young monarch had inherited a kingdom that was still reeling from the pressure of territorial expansion, dynastic instability, and the weight of his father's ambitions. Elizabeth, though no longer officially regent, remained a powerful and influential figure at court. As her son began to assert his authority, she knew that her role in the court was far from over. Though she was no longer the active ruler, her political skills, her deep knowledge of the court's inner workings, and her relationships with the nobility made her an indispensable figure in maintaining the kingdom's fragile unity. Elizabeth had always known that securing the future of the Przemyslid dynasty would not be easy. The ambitions of her late husband, Wenceslaus II, had brought great power to Bohemia but also left behind a kingdom with many unresolved challenges. She had worked tirelessly to ensure that her son would succeed his father, but with the passing of her regency, Bohemia's political landscape began to shift. The kingdom's territorial conquests had not been fully secured, and the claims on Poland, Hungary, and other neighboring regions still loomed large. The nobility, though largely loyal to the crown, was now more vocal in its demands for greater autonomy. At the same time, the political divisions within Bohemia became increasingly difficult to manage. Elizabeth's diplomatic skills had kept the kingdom united during her regency, but now, as her son ascended to the throne, the balance of power was shifting. Elizabeth had hoped that her son's reign would begin on solid footing, but the challenges of securing the loyalty of the Bohemian nobility and navigating the complex web of European diplomacy proved more difficult than she had anticipated. The nobility, many of whom had been loyal to her late husband, now looked to Wenceslaus III with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Some saw him as a weak and inexperienced ruler, while others hoped to exploit his youth and inexperience for their own gain. Elizabeth, ever the strategist, worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure that the nobles remained loyal to her son. She knew that Wenceslaus III could not afford to rule alone. He would need the support of the nobility to maintain control of Bohemia. Elizabeth's role as an intermediary between her son and the aristocracy became increasingly important. She worked to mediate disputes, placate the most powerful families, and ensure that Wenceslaus III's rule was respected. In many ways, Elizabeth was the glue that held the kingdom together even as her son struggled to assert his authority. Though Elizabeth's efforts to stabilize Bohemia in the wake of her husband's death had been admirable, the kingdom's future was far from secure. Wenceslaus III was still young, and despite Elizabeth's guidance, his reign was marked by uncertainty. The kingdom was not yet united in its loyalty to the throne, and the shadow of the Przemyslid dynasty's former glory loomed large. Elizabeth had hoped that her son's reign would usher in a new era for Bohemia, but the challenges he faced were insurmountable. As Elizabeth continued to work behind the scenes, it became increasingly clear that Bohemia was at a crossroads. The strength of the kingdom, once built on the ambition of Wenceslaus II and the alliances secured by Elisabeth, was beginning to wane. External threats continued to mount, with Poland and Hungary seeking to reassert their dominance in the region. Meanwhile, internal strife between the Bohemian nobility and the royal court grew. Elisabeth's efforts to maintain stability were no longer enough to prevent the impending collapse of the pre-Mislid dynasty's power. Despite the growing pressures, Elisabeth did not give up hope. Her determination to secure her son's future and the legacy of the pre-Mislid dynasty remained unwavering. As Wenceslaus III struggled with his role as king, Elisabeth continued to act as a stabilizing force. However, the political forces at play, both within Bohemia and throughout Europe, were too strong for her to overcome on her own. Elisabeth's political efforts, while admirable, could not prevent the inevitable decline of the pre-Mislid dynasty. As the years passed, Elisabeth watched as her son's reign began to falter. The external pressures from Poland, Hungary, and other European powers, coupled with the internal divisions within Bohemia, made it clear that the dynasty's days were numbered. Elisabeth's legacy as regent and political strategist remained strong, but the kingdom she had worked so hard to preserve was on the brink of collapse. In 1306, just a year after Wenceslaus III assumed the throne, Elisabeth's greatest fear came to fruition. Her son's reign, though short, ended in tragedy with his assassination. The young king, whose reign had never been fully solidified, was murdered under mysterious circumstances, and the Bohemian throne was left vacant. The pre-Mislid dynasty, once a powerful force in Central Europe, came to an abrupt end. Elisabeth, devastated by the loss of her son, withdrew from the public eye. Her dreams of securing Bohemia's future under the pre-Mislid banner were shattered. The kingdom, weakened by years of internal strife and external pressures, struggled to recover from the loss of its last pre-Mislid ruler. The monarchy was soon passed to a distant relative, and Bohemia entered a period of instability that would last for decades. Though Elisabeth's political influence waned with the fall of her family's dynasty, her legacy remained. She had been a powerful queen consort, a skilled diplomat, and a mother who had done everything in her power to secure the future of her son. Though her efforts were ultimately in vain, Elisabeth's role in shaping the politics of Bohemia and her contributions to the kingdom's diplomacy would be remembered for centuries to come. The death of Wenceslaus III in 1306 marked not just the end of his reign but the collapse of the pre-Mislid dynasty, the very dynasty that had shaped the fate of Bohemia for centuries. The kingdom, once so powerful and ambitious under the rule of Wenceslaus II, was left fractured and in disarray. Elisabeth, the once indomitable queen consort, had outlived both her husband and her son. With her son's assassination, the political landscape of Bohemia had irrevocably shifted. In the days following her son's death, Elisabeth withdrew from the public eye, deeply affected by the loss of her son and the death of the dynasty she had worked so tirelessly to preserve. The nation she had fought so hard to maintain was now in the hands of distant relatives and foreign powers. Her legacy, however, remained entrenched in the corridors of power, her political acumen and diplomatic finesse having shaped the destiny of Bohemia during one of its most turbulent times. Her final years were marked by a quiet yet profound influence. Elisabeth, though no longer in the spotlight, continued to play a behind-the-scenes role in the kingdom's political sphere. The nobles and former allies of the pre-Mislid family, though now scattered, still remembered her as a queen who had acted with grace and wisdom, who had tried to maintain unity during times of immense pressure. In her later years, Elisabeth became a symbol of stability and resilience. A queen who had lived through the rise and fall of empires, whose strength had been both a beacon of hope and a reminder of the fragility of power. As the years passed, the fate of Bohemia fell into the hands of foreign rulers, and the dream of a pre-Mislid-led kingdom gradually faded into history. Elisabeth's legacy, however, was not one defined solely by her political influence or the dynasty she sought to protect, but by the lessons she imparted through her strength, her diplomacy, and her unwavering devotion to her family. Elisabeth had always understood the complexity of politics, how alliances were made and broken, how loyalty could be fickle, and how power, once acquired, was never truly secure. Yet she never lost sight of her primary goal to protect her family and ensure a future for Bohemia even in the face of overwhelming odds. Her reign as regent for her son, Wenceslaus III, though brief, was a testament to her extraordinary ability to navigate treacherous political waters. In the aftermath of Wenceslaus III's death, Bohemia entered a period of instability. The throne passed to the Luxembourgs and the pre-Misled line faded into the background of Bohemian history. But Elizabeth's actions in those final years of the pre-Misled reign left an indelible mark on the political landscape of the region. She had preserved the kingdom when it seemed on the verge of collapse, and her diplomatic efforts ensured that Bohemia's legacy, though dimmed, would not be entirely forgotten. Though her son's reign was short and marred by tragedy, Elizabeth's role in preserving his future, both as a monarch and as a symbol of the pre-Misled dynasty, was vital. Her careful management of the Bohemian nobility, her strategic alliances with Hungary, and her unyielding support for her family helped Bohemia endure long enough to see the transfer of power to Wenceslaus III. In the end, while the dynasty she had fought so hard to protect came to an abrupt and tragic end, Elizabeth's role as a stabilizing force in Bohemian history remained. Elizabeth passed away in relative obscurity, having lived through the rise and fall of her family's power. Yet, her name lived on in the hearts of those who had witnessed her reign, both as a queen and as a mother who had given everything for the survival of her family's legacy. Though she was not the final monarch of the pre-Misled dynasty, she was one of its greatest defenders. Her strength, her political ingenuity, and her dedication to her family's future were the hallmarks of her reign. Bohemia, now under the rule of the Luxembourg dynasty, would go on to play a significant role in European politics in the coming centuries. Yet, the shadows of the pre-Misled legacy would never fully disappear. Elizabeth's diplomatic efforts, her resilience, and her unwavering support for her son would echo in the annals of history as a reminder of a time when Bohemia stood as a beacon of power in Central Europe. In the end, Elisabeth of Hungary, queen, mother, diplomat, remained a central figure in the tapestry of Bohemian history. Though she did not live to see her son's reign flourish, her impact on the kingdom, on her family, and on the future of Central Europe was undeniable. Her legacy would be one of quiet strength, a queen who, in the face of loss and uncertainty, never lost sight of the ideals she had fought for: the preservation of her family, the security of her kingdom, and the future of Bohemia itself.